Hey there, New Beginnings family. So I've been just spending time. We have a day off today, and I'm just spending time just really thinking practically about taking our area and what that looks like practically just by kind of looking at the numbers. And so I don't know if you can see this. You don't have to necessarily read it, but I took a a census. I went online and looked at the census of all of Jasper County and all the major areas, right? And what the populations are. So we can strategically plan how to take our county. And here's some of the things that I came up with that I thought were really neat is we have in the 2019 census, we had 121,328 people throughout the whole county. And so I imagine it's about 122,000 now in 2020. And then I went through and started taking up a population of every town in 2020. And if we were just going to talk about the Tri-City area, for example, Alba's got 546 people. Let's see, next city was 202, and Purcell has 430. So we're talking right around 1,000 people or so in the Tri-City area, which is not much at all, right? And then obviously we got the bigger areas like Joplin, or 51,000 in Joplin. Carthage, 14,000. Webb City is 12,000. Those are the bigger areas. Carl Junction, 8,000. And then a bunch of other areas with anywhere from like 1,000, 2,000 to just a few hundred. And so what was really neat is I've been reading this book on some church planning, and I'm looking at different resources this morning, just really seeing what are some of the major church planning movements. What are they doing in the world? How are they expanding so fast? Like the underground church in China, how are they expanding so fast? And I mean, simplicity, like Anthony was saying yesterday about the a great exodus from the systematic system of church the way we know it. These other places around the world, the underground churches, they're not doing church the way that we do it in America. They're not doing it the same way that we have tend to think of church, traditional westernized church. And looking at China's history, they had that traditional church system 30 plus years ago before persecution broke out. And when persecution broke out, the majority of those churches completely fell away. I think it was estimated about 80% of Christianity that was in those churches completely fell away. They were not able to withhold persecution. The churches fell apart, and only about 20% or so of China's churches, China's Christians, they had to now figure out how to survive. And they were bold to endure the persecution, but they had to figure out a new way to do church and how to make disciples, and then how to, again, get the gospel back out to the public, but in a way that they're going to be able to do it in times of persecution when the church cannot stand like we see it today. And so anyways, one website that I was looking at, one organization, it's called DAWN is their acronym. It's Disciple a Whole Nation. And what they found is that with medium to like large size churches, just anywhere from like 500 to 1,000 people, they're basically saying that you would need at least one church per every 500 to 1,000 people in an area. One living church to every 500 to 1,000 people living within a set population. Which means like for our area, for 121,000, we would need, or 121,000, we would need at least 1,200 churches, if not more, right? And that's like the bare minimum, 1,200 churches in our area to be able to effectively reach our whole population, to be able to pour into them, to teach them the gospel, preach the gospel, heal the sick, cast out demons, just doing all the stuff, feed the hungry, everything that we need to do. We would need 1,200 churches, living churches, right? And so anyways, so here's some of the things that I was looking at. If we have, say, 50 people who are strong at New Beginnings, right? And say that those 50 strong at New Beginnings, they go out and effectively witness and evangelize and bring in one person every year, right? So say we experience with the strong core at New Beginnings, hopefully it's more than 50. I'm just going to say 50 for simplicity's sake. But we get trained up, and then everyone goes out and witnesses and brings in minimum one person a year. Okay, on average, every person brings one person a year. Well, after 1 year, we would have 100, right? 100 people that we're discipling, we're training up to go out and do the same thing. Those 100 go out, witness to one person, bring them in, and we disciple them. So in year 2, we would have 200 people. Year 3, 400. And, year 4 would be 800. And, in year 5 would be 1,600, right? So right there, 1,600 people. I mean, that's a good number, right? It would take right now with Jasper County's current population somewhere between 11 to 12 years to effectively evangelize and bring everyone into the body of Christ with the population that we have now, at 122,000 roughly. 11 to 12 years, which, I mean, that isn't bad when we think about what we've done so far, right? I mean, that's pretty fast. And I don't mean just like new beginnings, obviously God's been building a good foundation in us. But I'm just saying churches at large. I mean, that'd be pretty good. Imagine if we knew that all of Jasper County within 12 years, if we just set that as our goal, we could have the whole county completely won. If everyone was committed, we're going to go out and bring one person in. We're going to teach them how to preach the gospel. We're going to witness to their families. They're going to be the person of peace that maybe they're not necessarily strong on their faith from the beginning. But now that they're saved, we can go into their homes and we're going to witness to their husbands or their wives or their parents or whoever. And that could be their one person that year, right? Some are going to do way greater than others, some less. But like that's pretty neat. So what I was looking at that I thought was pretty cool is, so with the 122,000 people within our county, right? We would need, if we wanted to have at least 500 to 1,000 people that we were able to reach effectively. We would need right around 122 churches, right? To somewhere between 122 to 244 churches. And when I'm saying churches, what I'm going to say is, I'm not saying necessarily the big building like we have it today, right? That we can have those and we can actually build those. What I mean is just having teams, like even our small groups, right? Our small groups, and that doesn't mean we can't still meet together as a church body, but even our small groups. If we look at our small groups as being a team, right? This team strategically comes together and focuses on witnessing and discipling those that we're bringing into the faith in our county. And we strategically place ourselves all over the map. We have certain number that are going to be in Alba, right? We pretty much only would need one church in Alba, right? With 546 people population. And then one more in Purcell. And we can have a third one, that's next city, but can also be support for that area. For the rest of the area as well. So basically 2 to 3 solid, small groups or fellowships in that area that are committed to reaching that area. But we would need a lot more for Joplin, right? We're talking about 51,000 there. We would need a whole lot more people. But here's what I thought was really cool. I started thinking about this. I think with the people that we have in our church right now, as far as solid people, we could have 4 small groups, right? 4 small groups that averages about 10 to 12 people in each group. These groups are now their own churches. They're their own teams that are now going to have a focus on discipling people within that group and also bringing new people in. If that group focuses on bringing in just 10 people every 2 years, okay? A group of 10 to 12 people, that small group, their goal is to bring in 10 new Christians, to bring them in. Now, I'm not saying bringing in a new Christian. I mean, or bringing in someone who's already a Christian. That's cool too. But I mean, we witness and we effectively evangelize 10 people in 2 years. Doesn't sound that hard, right? 10 people every 2 years, right? And then we multiply our fellowships with those 10 people, okay? Our little small fellowship will split up. Maybe 5 go with 5 new believers into one new fellowship. The other 5 older believers go with the 5 newer believers into the other fellowship. And we just multiply our fellowships. It would take us 10 years to reach 128 small group fellowships, which is right about what Don was saying, that we need, one church per every 500 to 1,000 people. That would be roughly about one church to every 1,000 people. We would have one team of about 10 good Christians in each area to reach each segment of our population in Jasper County. 10 years, right? That's a rate of bringing in 10 people in every 2 years. What if we make a goal to do it in 1 year? What if our small groups could do that in 1 year, right? We could be able to have enough churches planted, right, or enough teams, right, enough small groups planted throughout our county in a strategic way to to meet what this the Dawn, Disciple the Whole Nation, what they have figured out is an effective way to reach a population, we could have enough churches planted throughout all of Jasper County, not including the other churches in the area. We'll just leave them to themselves. We just focus on getting this vision. If they can jump on board, hallelujah, that would make the growth even faster. But we effectively want to start a church planting movement in our area. It would only take 5 years to do that. If we say we're going to bring in 10 new disciples, evangelize 10 people in this year, we're going to disciple them, and we're going to start new teams every year throughout the county. 5 years. 5 years, guys. We can have 128 small group churches throughout all of Jasper County that can effectively witness to about 1,000 people in that area. And then obviously if they keep growing, boom, within 10 years, we could have the whole county completely won to the Lord and being discipled. Sounds pretty amazing. And so anyways, that's kind of what I wanted to run by you guys. I thought that was really cool as I was just kind of looking at some of the numbers. One of the other church planting movements that I was looking at, one of their goals, like in these Asian countries around the world, is that, and these guys don't even have what we have, the revelation we have about the kingdom, about healing the sick, casting out demons, all the good tools that we have to witness to the lost and to aid us in preaching the gospel. They don't have this. They're just going out and preaching the gospel. Many are getting murdered and killed. But what they found is that if you can get, they found that a church planting movement becomes an actual movement when you get 4 generations deep. Okay? That means we have 4 small groups with new beginnings. If each of these small groups can now go out and plant another small group, to plant another small group, to plant another small group, talk about 4 generations, and we do it in a very quick format within just a couple years, we now effectively have a church planting movement in our area that will continue to flourish as long as they're being discipled, as long as they're, they keep the fire going, they got good prayer going, they're all abiding in the Lord, all right? And what they found is that each generation, roughly in those areas, and some of these church planting movements, on average, it's taken in a rural context in the country about 6 months to start a new generation, have a new generation that's now out there. They're being discipled and they're growing and they're now going out and evangelizing. And in a city setting, it only takes about 3 months on average to start this. Now, I think we need to make sure that we have a good curriculum in place, that people are getting discipled and we're not just bringing people in and then sending them out to the wolves. People need to be discipled. They need to be poured into. But just looking at those numbers, I think that this is pretty amazing. I love it. And I was looking also as well, the last numbers that I want to throw at you that I was thinking as well. And I'm sorry, maybe I can put this in the group text as well. Just type it out for everybody. Say we have 50 people strong at New Beginnings, right? And each one goes out and witnesses to just one person, right? Evangelizes one person a year. 50 strong, right? We have 50 people witnessing one person a year. That's 100% growth every year. That means after 1 year, June, what are we on? June 15th, June 16th, something like that. By June of next year, we now have 100 strong Christians, and so on and so forth. Within 11 to 12 years, the whole county would be won. 11 to 12 years. If we would focus and we all just won one person every year, discipled them, trained them to go out and win one other person. And again, it would probably happen much faster than that because movements, they take a little long to get going. But if we were focused, they start exponentially growing, not just additionally, exponentially growing much faster. And now when everyone's becoming a true Christian who's living the kingdom life, right, people are going to jump on board much faster. And it's not going to be a grind. In all of Jasper County, within 10 years, 11, 12 years, could be one to the Lord. Now, I think we can do it much faster than that. And I think with the times that we are living in right now, we may have another 4 years. And that's if, hopefully, again, Trump being a good guy and the Republican Party not being compromised. And if he gets reelected, we may have a solid 4 years left, maybe. I mean, we see with Corona coming in and what's happening with the riots, even under Trump's presidency right now, and things aren't looking good. But let's just say we even got another 4 solid years. The liberal agenda is going to keep coming at us with a vengeance. We may not survive another 4 years after this as the church, where, persecution really begins to break out, which means this might need to be exponentially growing exponentially needs to be happening. And it's going to just take prayer. It's going to take us standing boldly to do this. So I'm thinking we can do this, guys. These are just some numbers I want to throw at us for us to really start thinking about. And maybe as a body begin to make a commitment. What are we going to do to make a difference? So, yep, love you guys. Everything's going awesome here. Learning a good bit, growing. I can't wait to bring a lot of these messages back and just share with the body and really just, get us where we need to be who we've been called to be. I'm so glad to be part of this. I'm so glad to be your brother. And let's just stay focused. Let's get focused and then remain focused. And let's get a plan in order and let's go after this thing. Let's go take our county for the Lord, right? His kingdom come. His will be done on earth in Jasper County as it is in heaven. Let's go make disciples of all nations and we'll start where we're at, right? All right, guys, be blessed. Love you guys.